Good afternoon, everybody. Jack Thomas at the Happy Spot. We are fortunate to have our partner here, Sarah McGee, always working every day as our community advocate. Jeff Booker, public servant advocate in the plant-based community. And Gaetano, our faithful leader since 1978, coming out of the medical health world and leading the mushroom community. Today is going to be the beginning of the beginning. At 58 years old, I'll put it out there, Happy Jack, Jack Thomas, all the people looking to make wellness. And I'm 58 and for 44 years, been in and out of smoking cannabis, and we're never supposed to say it. But when the young people go, how's the old guy like you? Look at him. I said, yep, the pale-skinned guy wearing the collared shirt. It's when it's the open conversations that give people liberation and freedom. So at the Happy Spot, I am blessed to have Mr. Booker. And Jeff, please share with us a little bit about who you are and your background. You have a 30-year history in New Jersey serving the community, second generation that I remember, father coming out of the sheriff's department, again, a man in the community, that history. And now all of a sudden this is legal? Ho, 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 ho. Tell me more.
Well, thank you. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be on today. Again, my name is Jeff Booker. I am the founder and chief operating officer of CannaCoverage Insurance Services. We provide insurance consulting and risk management consulting services designed for the cannabis and psychedelic industry to ensure that companies in the space, both plant touching and ancillary businesses, have the appropriate insurance, risk management, employee benefits in place for their business, and is to ensure that a bad day does not put them out of business, right? So that really is our focus. But as was mentioned, I'm in my 30th year in the insurance industry here in the state of New Jersey. I worked on all sides of the industry, large group, small group, public, private sector. But about 4 years ago, I started CannaCoverage Insurance Services with my partner, Nichelle Santos, who is our co-founder and CEO, because we saw the need for experienced risk management and insurance consulting services in a new and emerging industry.
Thank you so much. And it's leaders like yourself. And I think when we were talking that you've seen hundreds of applications, and as all people are looking to find the American dream and have their own business, as you have your umbrella behind you, I love that picture and backdrop. It's your risk management. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to dovetail behind me a little bit, and this is the artwork. I'm sitting in my what I call my dojo. This is where I meditate every day. I do my martial arts. I do my yoga, where I get a thinking. And when I look over my shoulder, I always ask people, what language is that written in? And the answer is, it's an artist who I met out of Brooklyn, and it was just a free flow. And when you look at it, sometimes you could see, right, you could see every religion in here and the tools of that language. And so I believe in today's day and environment, we have generational conversations. My kids are 28 and 25. I don't always know what they're saying to me. I was at Enterprise today. I had an experience that was just horrible because, again, there's that age dynamic where they're using words on certain technology. I don't know. That communication skill set. How do you see that going on when you have all these young people applying? How do you communicate to them that, that application wasn't right? Or yeah, I'm not telling you need to do this, but you're, as an insurance guy, you're telling them you need to do this, or otherwise they're not going to have the coverage. How do you navigate that in the age dichotomy and, with your wisdom? We're looking to teach our community, which are everyday people living extraordinary lives. And so your wisdom is greatly appreciated.
I certainly appreciate that endorsement of what I'm about to say. But again, what we try to do is make sure that a lot of these folks many of them are first time, like real business owners, right? It's the first time they've actually had to meet a payroll and understand the P&L and a budget and all those types of things. And it's very helpful for them to have folks come around them to help them understand how to structure their businesses, how to have the appropriate SOPs for their business, have the right advisors, the right accountants, the right lawyers, et cetera, to help them be able to navigate this space more effectively. We understand that insurance is not sexy, but it's serious, right? So folks need to understand that if you do not appropriately plan and appropriately work to assess, mitigate, and then transfer your risk, you could be headed for a real difficult time. And a lot of folks may not be able to sustain a bad day, and it may put them out of business. So we tell folks some of the stories that have happened where folks didn't have the right coverage or had no coverage at all, and your coverage is crossing your fingers and hoping that the DEA doesn't find your crop and burn it down. Right, that's your insurance, right? Back in the day. So, but as we transfer from legacy to legal, it's important to put structure and systems in place to help you operate like a regular business.
That's great. Thank you. And so and I love how you put that language out there and the acronym. So what would be an example? So Sarah is about as educated as anybody I know. And so are you familiar with, and I'm going to put you on the spot, and I know I can't embarrass you, but are you familiar with what an SOP is?
I'm actually not.
Well, I apologize for that.
But that's okay. But that's the idea of the forum, right? Where you could be comfortable and go and be vulnerable. No, I don't know. Right. And so I'd love you to go a little deeper on what the SOP is. But as a company, do you have a preset standard format of SOPs that if they're doing business with you, you give it to them? So is that I'd love to know more of that depth.
Well, first of all, to define the acronym, it stands for Standard Operating Procedure.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So again, a lot of industries, insurance, risk, et cetera, we speak in acronyms. It's like code. It's Greek, right? People don't understand that. So that's a good reminder to simplify that and make it very clear as to what that is. To answer your question, yes, we do have access to a set of standards, whether you're a cultivator or whether you're a dispensary, manufacturing, processing, transportation, et cetera. So there are SOPs that are available from a variety of sources, but we certainly have access to standards that are really looked at as national standards, depending on what sector of the business you are in.
And from a national standard, the state of New Jersey, and I'll touch upon it just for a moment. Gaetano was on, and it was about mushrooms. And so my son, who's out in Colorado, right? He's into the psychedelic healing and the PTSD, and he graduated with a neuroscience psychology degree and understands that. But a state ranking, like where are we as in the leadership? Because I just was in New York today, and I have clients that are in that cannabis business in New York and New Jersey, and they seem so disorganized and unhappy in New York. And as a New Yorker, my heart goes out to them. I feel like when I go to meetings and the people I'm around, you're around, there's a leadership and a direction. New Jersey, are we like the top number 1 state, number 10 state in leadership in kind of this risk management leadership area?
Well, I would say with respect to our state's regulatory body, the Cannabis Regulatory Commission in New Jersey, I think they've got a lot of things right. They learned some lessons from other places. Some would say that there are areas where they could improve. But I think that's the case with everything and everybody, right? So nobody's perfect, right? So there always should be a desire to improve and enhance what's being done. So I think, it's generally understood that New Jersey has gotten more right than wrong. But a lot of things you think sound great on paper or on the whiteboard, but when it's actually in practice and in process, you understand you got to tweak it a little bit. So I want to commend our commission in New Jersey for constantly looking for ways to improve and to tweak what they're doing within the confines of the legislation that they were given by the legislature. Folks have to remember that the legislature are the ones who actually write the laws and the regulations, the laws actually, and then the law is then used by the executive branch to put together the regulations and the guidelines and the rules of the industry, right? So that's an important part to understand too.
Thank you. And as far as you had mentioned cultivation and growing before, so I just spent the past, I don't know, give or take 10 days being blessed with friends down the Jersey Shore, and I was all the way down in Avalon, right up into Brick, up into your neighborhood, coming up all the way up north. I was in Sandy Hook. And the amount of green in our garden state is just so rich. So cultivating. So what are the like three top things? To me, I think marijuana, Jamaica Queens, Red Door, back of the warehouse my buddy owned. That was where we knew we can get cannabis. Today, it looks like it could be grown anywhere in New Jersey. And are there cultivators? Who are these players?
Well, there are a number of them. Again, the industry is still in its nascent phase. So it's really important to understand that. But a cultivator simply is that a grower. They're the ones who grow the plant, right? The vast majority are growing indoors because the ability to control climate and all of that, a greenhouse type effect, and that really is the most common way. There are still some out there, other states, et cetera, that are growing outdoors. Harder to do that because of all the variables of the weather and all of that. But the cultivation sector here in New Jersey is certainly alive and well. You typically see the larger farms or the larger planned farms down in South Jersey and in the northwest part of the state because of land, right? You need acreage, right? You need property to be able to cultivate the plant effectively. So what we've found is that a lot of folks have gone to South Jersey and have really looked at that as an area to be able to get, 10, 50, 75, 100,000 square feet of canopy, as it's called, to be able to grow the plant. So, but that's just one sector, but that's where it starts, right? The seed in the ground.
Great, thank you. Well, we're going to be moving to a break. And as we move into break, we're going to have a little more interaction with Sarah going on. We were talking about a company before called Benevis, and this is going to be about the employee benefit of your division. And this is the part that I think is revolutionary. And we're sitting at the cusp of greatness. And we'll be right back at the happy spot. This is Jack Thomas sitting with Jeff Booker.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to the happy spot. This is Jack Thomas with Jeff Booker, and we are in the world of plant-based wellness compared to the opioids. I did want to just touch upon the gentleman sitting in the room with us, and his history and his knowledge is critical because as we move into the new business environment, it's people like Jeff and myself of our age group, of our wisdom, that we received it from somebody else. And so the way I see my relationship with Jeff and the variety of his partners and members, when I grew up in Queens, we grew up in an organization, it was called the Guild, and it represented the automotive industry. And it started in the 60s, but it was just the older statespeople that were in the automotive industry going, the insurance industry is beating us up. And so those were the leaders that when I was a young person, going to work with my dad and looking up at these men going, God, look at what they're doing. They're taking on the insurance industry and for the greater good, not to just fight for the fight, but for the greater good of the consumer. And so to be around you, it's really great because we want employers to know that we want that wellness getting into the community. And I was talking with Sarah earlier about, what was the name of that company that they're partnering up with, Sarah?
Benevis, I believe, correct?
Yeah.
Benibis Health, yes. Yeah, Benibis.
And so Sarah and I had some questions, if you could elaborate on that for us, and how we get this out so other employers, because our targeted market are 100 to $400 million corporations. And so those corporations, right, want to know what it is, where they can get it, and when is it active.
Great. Well, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be able to have a conversation about increasing patient access to plant-based medicine, right? So CannaCoverage has partnered with our good friends over at Benibis Health. Benibis Health is an organization that has created a platform to provide medicinal cannabis to the public with a real focus on bringing it through employer groups as an employee benefit, leveraging the existing infrastructure that employers have with respect to providing employee benefits to their employees. Benibis, along with our partnership, we have created the ability to deliver medicinal cannabis to employees who have a medical card, for example, in the state of New Jersey, to be able to get access to medicinal cannabis. The program is basically set up to allow employees to go to a network participating dispensary in their area to be able to receive their medicine at a discount by being a member of the Benibis program, which in many cases will be brought to them via their employer. Our role in the process is to help take the Benibis platform and bring it to employer groups of all sizes, but companies in particular are what we call self-insured or self-funded in the space, meaning that they pool their own resources and set aside their own resources to pay claims, as opposed to paying a premium to an insurance company to assume all the risk. They are self-retaining some of that risk. And setting aside funds to pay those claims as they come. So that really is the basic structure of the program. And if folks have more questions about that, CannaCoverage, as I said several months ago, was positioned as what's called an MGA, or a master general agent for the program, to be able to bring that program to employer groups regionally here in our region and in other parts of the country where there's a demand for it.
So great, so great, so great. So what I want to do is have a little bit of a round robin with the three of us, because everything you say, I understand. And so Sarah, the educated lady in the room who, right, sits in all my meetings with insurance, but you're using language that she's never heard before. So what does MGA mean to you, Sarah, when you first hear that?
Well, now I know it means Master General Agent, which I think means it just has more power. It just has the authority to distribute benefits to employers directly from the cannabis dispensary.
Yep, perfect. And so now, in addition, right now, so Sarah, right, her and her husband have health insurance, and right, they're both right 36, young professionals, healthy, thank God. And let's say all of a sudden, right, someone's not feeling well, right, their back is hurting them. And so what does that process look like from you as the MGA that this, right, an employer buys it? What's the process look like for,
Well,
for the
yep.
family?
That's a great question, and again, we'll try to simplify it as much as we can. Let's assume that your employer has engaged or is engaging with us to be able to provide that program. Basically, the way it works is that you would need to get, let's say you're living in New Jersey, you would need to get a medical card, a medical cannabis card, which would have to be approved by a physician, right? There are a variety of ways to get that. We actually provide, with our partnership with Benebis, the ability for telemedicine, for you to be able to get that assessment that's required by a medical provider. You can do that virtually. And upon completing that assessment, they can then let you know if you're qualified to receive a medical card. If you are, once that card comes, you can then take that card to a participating Benebis network dispensary, which would then allow you to be able to get the medicine that you need, and be able to, as you're doing that. Go ahead.
So right there is where I'm going to go. Okay, I got you. Right now, I'm that layperson going, okay, the benefits card, I'm at work, I have this benefits card. Now, I live in Bloomfield, so there's a new dispensary that just opened up. So I've never seen anybody advertising. Is that something that they're going to advertise in the future at the dispensaries? How many art dispensaries are in New Jersey today that are legal to even sell medical marijuana? I'm not even sure. Is it 10, 100, 1,000? What's the number in Jersey?
Yeah, there are over 100 dispensaries in the state now in total. Not all of them have a medical license. Some of them are recreational, and some of them are just medical. The original dispensaries that were open in the state of New Jersey were just medical, a decade or so ago plus. But now there are dozens and dozens more of recreational dispensaries. So again, the process would be, once you have the Benebis program at your employer, and then you then have your medicinal cannabis card, you can then take that to a participating Benebis network dispensary to allow you to be able to get access to your medicine.
This is really fantastic. And Sarah, I don't know if you remember, I went out, my daughter lives in LA, my daughter's 28, and similar, dynamic of age group with Sarah and her family. And I'm like, I can't believe that in California, one of my daughter's good friends at work, out on disability, getting ketamine treatment, therapy, all on Zoom, right? And this is, and somebody's paying for it. So are California's rules, because it seemed much more organized. It was almost like a sanctuary. They called it a sanctuary and how it was set up, but it wasn't really directly through the traditional medical community, but it was a traditional employer. Are they doing things ahead of us in California because they had cannabis beforehand, or are we learning from them here in Jersey? Because I was so impressed in how she was being treated. Specifically for her, it was on the ketamine.
Yeah, no, I think that as it pertains to whether it be ketamine or it be cannabis, what we find is, and what we have to understand is that insurance is regulated at the state level, right? A lot of folks don't understand that, but it is. So the guidelines in California and Colorado and Arizona and Oregon, and et cetera, are different than what they are here. Different legislatures, different governments, et cetera. So different insurance departments, right? So there are bills on the floor in the state of New Jersey's legislature that would allow for reimbursement like any other medication as it pertains to insurance. So these are bills that my partner Nichelle and Gaetano and others on our team are fighting for, and helping our elected officials understand the importance of this, that medicinal cannabis should be treated like any other prescription, right? We're not there yet, but that's the path. That's the path.
That's great. And I'm gonna first make a statement. With our political environment, the way it's going today, it's difficult, to watch. I'm not a political person, but watching it going on. But I am curious from a political perspective, are the Democrats or the Republicans, who's a greater advocate? Because I did meet a gentleman, a smart gentleman, and I said, I'm not a political guy. And he's like, you like cannabis? I said, yeah. He goes, now you're a political guy. So, so with that, who's favoring your side of the table, Republicans or Democrats?
Well, over the decades, traditionally, Democrats have been far more open, to the legalization, the normalization of cannabis, et cetera. What I will tell you is that with increasing speed, while Democrats certainly still, by percentage-wise, are far more likely to be supportive, more and more Republicans in state legislatures and in Congress are coming around, right? You cannot deny the science forever. And I think it's important that there be clarity in looking at this. It shouldn't be about what you feel about things. It should be about what you think about things based on data and empirical information and science, right? So I think the more we do that, the better off that we're going to be.
Great, thank you. You used to.
Is there a difference, like biochemically, structurally, between recreational marijuana and medical marijuana?
Not really. It really comes down to the manufacturing and the processing process. The THC content. THC is the compound within cannabis that is psychoactive, and the higher that percentage, the more of a high or an effect that you will have from using the product. But medicinal cannabis sometimes has a higher THC content because you're looking for a certain effect based on a medical condition. But that really is the main difference. It's really the level of THC and the particular strain that has been manufactured for medicinal purpose, if that is indeed the need in that situation.
That was always been a question in my mind. Is that a myth? So thank you for answering that. Yeah.
Great question. Well, we're gonna move to break. I just want to bring to everyone's attention the senses that we all have, and as we go in and out of the happy spot, the sound are binaural beats, and I use those to focus. So it's using technology today, and not just the cannabis, but having the other tools around you and how they all coordinate for a well-being. This is the happy spot. We are biohacking our information, and we'll be right back with Jack Thomas and Jeff Booker and Sarah McGee. Thank you.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on TalkRadio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back, everybody. We are at the Happy Spot with Jack Thomas, Sarah McGee, and Jeff Booker. The topic of today is of cannabis and wellness in the business environment. So as I go through your LinkedIn page, and that's what I always do, and I first look at the public service consultant. So elaborate with me on your viewpoint of how you're I think it's a great title, and I've spent enough time with you that it's fitting. Elaborate on that public service consulting, in how you see your role within the greater beyond kind of coverage, but in society.
Well, again, that's listed there because I have spent, well over 20 years, probably close to 25 years now, sort of working in the political arena. Working on various campaigns and working with elected officials and candidates and all those things for well over 20 years now. That has allowed me to build a lot of relationships and has allowed me to build the relationships with folks who now, when they were younger in the business, if you will, a couple decades plus ago. Now they're the mayors. Now they're the council presidents. Now they're the school board presidents. Now they're county officials, state reps, state legislators, et cetera. So because I've been able to build that network, one of the things I've been able to do is to try to help sometimes be a bridge between the business community or folks working in the nonprofit arena, et cetera, and the public sector, in particular public sector leadership. So I've been able to leverage that in a variety of ways to help educate elected officials, to help bring messages from the nonprofit world, from those in the service communities, et cetera, to be able to better serve the public and better engage their elected officials and just try to be a bridge very informally.
That is great, and by using that word bridge, I was in a fraternal organization with some of the people I was visiting over the weekend, and we pride ourselves on being a bridge builder. And so we would teach the younger people that would come into the fraternity. You had a choice, you join the fraternity. We're here. Other brothers before us built the bridge. And you're given the choice if you could build a bridge to cross the ravine. Is it just for you to get across the ravine quicker, or do you build a bridge so it'll have some granite stone for others to follow behind? And that's where the educations begin. And so now I'm going to touch upon a topic which I know that you're comfortable with, and reading through your LinkedIn page is serving the Black and Brown community, specifically in the newer community. How does that differ then, right? I come from my perspective of how I know marijuana from a white community. I've spent most of my life working in mixed communities, and I'm comfortable in the conversations. But I'd love for everyday people to know these are real conversations going on in the Black and Brown community, working together, building a better environment in that business world. Elaborate on that a little bit, because Sarah and I are sitting on the other side of the table, and we'd like to learn to hear from your viewpoint, please.
Well, I appreciate that question and the sensibility of that inquiry, because it's important to understand that we all come in many cases from different places, different spaces, different environments, different upbringings, et cetera. It's no secret that one of the difficulties with the war on drugs over the decades has been the deliberate weaponization of that war on drugs against people of color, in particular as it pertains to marijuana or cannabis, right? A very short research project into the history of marijuana in the country will help you understand that the government, knew long before now that there's conversations around rescheduling cannabis. The federal government knew decades and decades ago that there was a desire, even though this plant had significant and has significant medicinal properties to it, as it pertains to PTSD, cancer, epilepsy, inflammation, as I said, PTSD, etc., and many over 70 applications for the plant. For it to have been treated as a Schedule I drug was quite frankly ridiculous, and it was done to really weaponize it against communities of color. Black and brown communities were deliberately put upon and were deliberately preyed upon by the federal government, beginning in the 70s and going forward, making it seem like somehow having access to this plant or being able to use this plant was somehow driving people crazy, and it had no medicinal value, all of which was a lie, right? So we now know better, and the federal government's coming around to it. But we have to understand, when we have conversations around social equity, that term, that really comes from the need of society to provide equity as it pertains to this new burgeoning industry, so that the individuals who and the communities who felt the biggest brunt of the war on drugs as it pertains to cannabis should be first in line to be able to benefit from this now legal industry. So it's a great question, and we cannot have a conversation without cannabis, without having a conversation about how we got here as a country.
I love your passion. I love your delivery and the openness. Sarah and I talk with people about healing in different version, and there's a term called quantum healing. And so I don't know if you're familiar with it, but Sarah, if you want to just share some of the readings and things that we learn about that. And the reason why I bring up quantum healing in this moment is because of being a cannabis smoker and getting that euphoric high and kind of going out of your mind and out of your body, not going crazy out of your mind, but leaving your body. In quantum healing, kind of having that same synergistic healing. What's some stuff you'd want to share, or we'll have an open exchange here with Jeff, please.
Sarah, you're on mute, I think.
Still on mute.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
right.
From my understanding, quantum healing borrows some of the physics concepts, but applies them in psychological ways. And specifically, it is a state of deep hypnosis. And I'm not completely familiar with all this physics concepts, but
you're perfect. It's right there.
But that's where it lies, and it's transformative experience for a lot of people.
And so the reason why I open up the question of the Black and brown community and the white community, there is one thing. We have a chief medical officer on our team, and Dr. Dona is of Haitian descent. And I have been with her when she speaks in large conferences about doctors and burnout, and 65%. And her argument is, as a doctor, the healthcare insurance industry wants me to see a patient in 7 minutes. She's like, I can't even begin to get to know them in 7 minutes to have an opening conversation, and that's creating the burnout. If we all know this mental wellness is not well, then I'm posing the question to the society of, hey, trustees at the hospitals, directors and officers, if people start knocking on your door and are talking about the liability because you can't serve the community, that's step one. And we've already learned this in hacking, right? There are artists that took on, right, the Sackler family in the opioid community by just kind of quietly asking questions and doing it in an artistic and a nice way, but in a verbal way. And that is some of the stuff that we're looking at. But who are the people that are really still holding you back now? Is it still the pharmaceutical industry that people tell me because they're worried about their profits? Or is it just that people are afraid of cannabis because they still associate it, that it's like me going back in the 1970s in the back of a warehouse to the red door and having that vernacular versus I drive down the street into the most beautiful buildings greeted by very nice people with nice product?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. I think that the stigma that and the residue of that is still there. And I think that because it's there in society at large, it's going to be a part of businesses and the industry, pharmaceutical industry, et cetera. Those industries are made up of people, and people carry these biases, right? These biases that they've had for all these years. Now they're in leadership, now they're making decisions, et cetera, but they still have that residue from decades of a policy that was not based on altogether pure or altruistic motives, right? So I think it's all the above. And I think that one of the things I did want to further clarify is that there, as I said before, there is a growing sense of bipartisanship as it pertains to cannabis. Now, politics is always going to be politics, right? But there is even more, I would say, agreement coming forward as it pertains to psilocybin and other psychedelics, where you're starting to see that be available, or a push to make it available for our vets, right? Folks who have paid greatly for their country should have access to the best care, and it shouldn't be about decades old feelings, and how people feel about things. It should be about science. What is the best health care that we can offer, and utilize that, even if we're not comfortable because of what we thought we used to know, right?
This is great. Thank you so much. We're about to go to break, but I just want to say our last segment, I really wanted to be about this Benevis and how people could find access to you, right, and your company, and also how our surrounding communities, because we work with other professionals in the insurance industry, how we're able to help your growth, right? Because when you grow, then as a society, we all grow together. And I'm so grateful to have this open forum in this conversation. We'll be right back at the happy spot. Jack Thomas, Sarah McGee, and Jeff Booker smiling at everyone.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on TalkRadio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back. To the Happy Spot with Jack Thomas. We're going to be talking with Jeff Booker and Sarah McGee about the Benebis Health and how you can get access to it. This has been quite informative in our past 45 minutes, and I know that if we had 3 hours with Jeff, we would want another 3 with him. We do look forward to having Nicole Santos in the future, your partner and the CEO. You have a great team and just great people. So I was texting you before. So I always say, as an MGA, what's your sweet spot and who's that company? And so for the Sarahs of the world, her husband works at a company. Let's say they have 100 employees. Is that somebody, that is that size 100 or is it 10? Just some of the numbers, please.
Yep. And I'm certainly happy to be able to answer that and provide some context. We have employers that have 10, people that are getting on to the platform. And we're also in discussions with very large unions that have 8,000, 15,000, 30,000 employees. Who are in discussions, to bring this benefit, to their employees. So, so it kind of runs the gamut. And again, it's really a matter of having an employer be forward thinking. The track that cannabis is on legislatively and in society is moving quickly, right? Just as it is moving quickly, for psychedelics and ketamine and other medicines. And employers want to be getting in front of this and getting ahead of it so that when employees are asking about it, they have answers, right? And our positioning as an MGA, for Benebis, it allows us to work with employer groups to bring this benefit to them. And in some places, there may not be an existing dispensary network in that area. And part of what we will do with Benebis is to work locally to help create that network, right? To make sure that there's appropriate dispensary coverage in that employer's area and in the areas where they have employees in the state, and even across the country, depending on where they are. So that really is one of the things that we want to bring forward, is to help increase access, patient access to medicine that is needed, because the healthier and the happier employees are, the more productive they are in doing the work their employer has asked them to do.
Great. So now I'm going to get a little more technical because I'm curious myself, but I don't want us to get too lost in the weeds. So, right, I've been in the healthcare brokerage business, and the largest client I ever had was 1,200 employees, and the smallest was 2. And there's a set format you kind of see that goes on with certain companies and industries also. But you'll have a healthcare broker, you'll have the drug supplier, and then you have all these other ancillary benefits, which are now being managed by what we'll call a TPA, a third-party administrator. And the third-party administrators are working hand in hand with HR and payroll. And so it gets very wiry and twiny and a lot of things moving through. Where do you fit in that realm, right? How is that employee going to know, hey, I went to the doctor, right, may have prescribed cannabis. They don't even know that's an option. So who's talking to who in that third-party administrator, to HR, to payroll, to the actual insurance company? And where does your company fall in there?
Well, we fall right in the middle of that in helping, build the communications that are needed between the TPA, the employer, the employees, the dispensary network that is either existing or has to be built, right? It can be built pretty quickly, but really, for example, without giving away details, and you'll see an announcement in the next 30 days or so of a major New Jersey city that's going to be offering this to their employees. Part of that conversation was making sure we had the TPA on board, right? And making sure that the TPA was comfortable with it, understood it, and also making sure that the pharmacy benefit manager, the PBM, understands it as well. So that has to be put together. And part of our role was to bring those entities together, get everybody in a room, and talk through how we're going to adjudicate, these claims. So and how to process these transactions, because again, really what the end game is once we're in a situation where the regulatory environment is such, and we're in a situation where we now can take 6, 12, 18, 24 months of claim data and then put it side by side and say, okay, previously you were spending this on this, now you're spending this on that, right? And be able to prove what we all know intrinsically is that if we move more and more to plant-based medicine and less on synthetic drugs and opioids, not only are we going to get better health outcomes, we're going to drive healthcare costs down, and now everybody's happy, right? So that's the future. That's where we're going.
And so we have that conversation that the future is today.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we make things move quicker? And at the Happy Spot, Jack Thomas, we are specifically now talking with major attorneys and other professionals around the country on how to make some of these executive directors and trustees either recognize or make them uncomfortable, because sometimes it just has to get uncomfortable until you get comfortable.
Right.
What are some things like as a lady, I'm so familiar with Sarah's family, her mom and dad, maybe in their 70s, maybe not feeling as well, right? Are there age restrictions to your services, right? Or can this work for people up into their 90s?
Yes, it's for all ages, even including under strict doctor care. There have been many examples of cannabis being used in the pediatric realm to help with certain conditions and that sort of thing under a doctor's care. An experienced medical professional who knows what they're doing can really help bring relief to children. But again, we're not talking about the street corner. We're not talking about the back of a truck. We're talking about a prescription under an experienced medical provider's care. And that goes from whether they're 9 or they're 90, right? So there are no age restrictions on that. Obviously, children have to have parents and guardians' involvement, of course, like anything else, whether it's cough syrup or aspirin or cannabis, right? So by the same token, folks who are older and more experienced and more seasoned, can get access to the care that they need. And one of the things that we really want to, drive home is to let folks know, if you want your employer to look at this, and if you want to be able to have access to this at your employer, you can reach out to us at CannaCoverage.net. And you can also reach out via email to myself, j.booker@CannaCoverage.net, or n.santos@CannaCoverage.net. And we can be we'll be happy to connect with you and put you in contact with the appropriate resources to get a look at this, to see if it's something your employer would want to put into place, whether it be for cannabis as an employee benefit, or as we also talked about, psychedelics like ketamine, which again is really something that provides relief in ways that synthetic drugs cannot provide. And I want to give a shout out to my colleague Gaetano Lardiri in the chat there, as he is putting there some great information and really helping folks understand what's available to them. I'm about getting things done the right way. And if the old way was the wrong way, then why are we still doing it that way, right? Somebody said, if you know better, you do better, right? We should be doing better. We should be.
I could listen to you all day, sir. Your wisdom, and then having a Gaetano, and I'm looking at the notes and the numbers, right, Sarah? You want to read up on some of these things here, right? Generalized anxiety, 65% improvement. I literally just got a text from a dear friend of mine, anxiety. Larry, what can I listen to, right? And I hesitate because I know what's good for me, but you need that medical professional. And so that's why we have a chief medical officer on our team. I got such a great understanding of where you're at. I am appreciative for you to be on the show and Gaetano and everyone to be listening in. I look forward to hearing more about what's going on. And you get the final say of the word, Mr. Booker. What would you like to share with the universe?
Well, again, we would just like to reiterate the importance of plant-based medicine. We need to push through the stigma and get folks the medicine that they need when they need it at an affordable price. And we believe that the employer-based employee benefits model is one of the greatest ways to do that. The day will come eventually where getting a script for cannabis will be the same as getting a script for metformin or for Lipitor one day.
Great, thank you. At the Happy Spot, Jack Thomas and Sarah McGee, we wish everyone a great day and a happy week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.